SEGA have recently confirmed that Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is going to have absolutely no movie DLC whatsoever. Due to there being no Sonic movie project set to release this year, they've decided to put no Sonic movie characters in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. Now obviously, as the #1 Sonic movie news source there is, proven fact by the way, this news was very upsetting, but I wasn't going to take it lying down. So in the classic catchphrase, Mason does what SEGA owned, that's a real catchphrase, I decided, hey, let's just do it myself. Now the plan was simple, add Movie Shadow and Movie Sonic to every single bit of Sonic Racing CrossWorlds stuff there is. And this includes the DLC list on the website, the game's character select UI, as well as actually making it so the player is hovering over them, that they are indeed in the car or extreme gear, add them to in-game screenshots of people actually playing as them, and then to also add them into this key art that gets updated every single time a new DLC character joins the roster. Now whilst I could just do this by throwing in Sonic movie renders that already exist, I'm going to use models to recreate these poses instead. For screenshots of them in-game, I'm going to use the exact same models as well. Now, the models I'm going to be using, for Movie Sonic, I'm going to be using BTB Anim's and Holopack Sume's Movie Sonic recreation model, which looks exactly like it does out of the films. And for Movie Shadow, I'm going to use Skew 3D and BTB Anim's Movie Shadow model, which, I mean, come on, these things look like they are straight out of the film, so this is going to work well. Now, when messing around with the website's inspect element, I found out that if you upload an image to some sort of website somewhere and then copy that link and paste it into the CrossWorlds thing, you can put any image you want there. Granted, it'll go away when you refresh and it only shows up for you, but it still looks cool. So following this sort of look to add them to the website, I decided to use this render for Movie Sonic and, of course, the classic iconic Movie Shadow render. And so starting off with Movie Sonic with this render in mind, I got straight to work. And let me tell you, this pose wasn't actually that hard to recreate. I didn't think it was going to be this easy. There's definitely some parts where I struggled and it didn't really look that right at certain moments, but the more I dragged around and more I messed with it, it started to look like pretty good. The main thing I just couldn't seem to get my grasp on is the back foot. I don't know why, but it took me forever to put that in the right place and it not look like he was just kind of dangling his leg behind him. After doing all of that and waiting for it to render, we got this render, which doesn't look that different to the original. It just kind of looks a little bit more updated and new, and I'm happy with that. However, our job isn't done yet. As you notice, all of the characters have this sort of box around them to add them to the website. I don't know why, but they just do. So now we've got to recreate that too, using Photoshop. But before we do that, we should render Movie Shadow first. Now, whilst I could just use the Movie Shadow render that's already available since it's the most up-to-date model as it's a Sonic Movie 3 render, no, I'm going to recreate it in Blender. And so with Skew 3D's Movie Shadow model, I got to work. And some of the things that I hadn't usually done before was I actually tried to move the mouth around to make it look more accurate. Because not to get nerdy and technical, but if you look at this Movie Shadow render, you can very clearly see that his mouth has been dragged off to the side and it's not in the middle like it usually is. And whilst I think I could have done this a little bit better, I'm not personally that upset with how the result came looking, which by the way, there it is. Comparing it to the actual Movie Shadow render, there's some things that I got right, some things I got wrong. I'm not the best at Blender, I haven't been doing it this long. So with there now being Movie Sonic and Movie Shadow renders done, let's finally get onto that little UI background recreation. And let me tell you right now, this thing took way longer than I expected it to. I was expecting this to take me like 10-15 minutes. This is pretty easy. It's just a bunch of squares and some lines. How hard should that be? It took me about half an hour. There were so many times where I believed I was finished and then I'd look and I'd realize, oh, there's a little tiny detail I haven't done. That genuinely happened like 3 or 4 times. But once that was finally done, I was able to throw Movie Shadow in there, edit it a little bit because there's some points where he's sticking out, some points where he's behind it, and here's the finished thing. And hey, I'm pretty proud of this. I like it so far. But we're not done yet, as we need to do the same with Movie Sonic. Now, this did not take as long as Movie Shadow did because the background UI stuff has already been made. It's literally just a case of editing the Movie Sonic render to look right in there, changing the colors, doing all of that nice, beautiful stuff. And there he is. Now that we've got the little icons for Shadow and Sonic ready to go on the DLC website, let me do a little bit of Hackerman editing. Yeah, there we go. Yep, and boom, there it is. Just like that, Movie Shadow and Movie Sonic are now coming to Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, according to my inspect elemented version of the website. So we can tick that one off of the list right there. There's a screenshot. Movie Shadow and Movie Sonic are now onto the DLC part of the website. Now, next on the list is the character select screen, and the reason that this is harder than you might think it is because I'm not just slapping these renders onto the screen and calling it a day. I'm creating renders of them actually in the vehicles with the player selecting them, which means I've got to edit the little text right here. I've got to actually put the movie characters on the boards or in the cars right here, and then I've also got to edit this character select thing to go where the movie characters are going to be. Yeah, it's going to be a lot. And so I took this screenshot right here of Sonic on the extreme gear and the little open network test demo and got to work. Putting the image in the background as a sort of reference, I was able to kind of pose Movie Sonic just looking dead and lifeless. Because whilst I'd love to pose him and giving some cool looking emotions and make him really happy and smiley, these characters are just staring into the abyss. So I didn't make him look anywhere, I didn't give him any emotions, I literally just posed him as Sonic was posing and called it a day because he doesn't need to have any emotions here. And here is the extreme gear render. I know, he looks really dead.
I did a good job. Now, finding the font for the Sonic text right here at the bottom wasn't really that hard, and here it is if you're interested. After changing the text was pretty easy, I decided to move on to adding Sonic over Joker, since we're just going to say that Sonic was in Joker's position. I also had to add Sonic back into the roster, so when I got rid of the character select thing, his little menu didn't look weird and like out of place. Now, with there being a blank spot on the character select thing, I threw the movie Sonic render that was in there last time, added it all, making it look good and beautiful, and then came the very hard time that I was not looking forward to whatsoever, managing to remove Sonic from the extreme gear, somehow, and put movie Sonic over him. Now, I actually added movie Sonic over this because I didn't want to edit out Sonic completely and then just put movie Sonic there, and it turns out I'd done a bunch of editing for no reason. But once that was done, it was pretty much some basic editing from there. Yes, I drew over the extreme gear because it's small, it's a little screenshot, I doubt many people would notice it, and let's be real, the only reason you're going to notice it is because I just pointed it out. I added some finishing details, shadow to his shoes, all of that cool stuff, and here is the final screenshot. I am actually really proud of this. I like his lifeless look, I love the character select screen, honestly, it all looks really good, not to, you know, toot my own horn. So now with movie Sonic character select done, it's time for Shadow the Hedgehog's. And since movie Sonic was on some extreme gear, I figured that Shadow should be in a car, it's only fair. So with this screenshot of Shadow in his car, I got to work, and this one was much easier since I didn't have to render any of Shadow's feet or pretty much any of the bottom half of his body. I just kind of had to move his arms, and he already has a lifeless expression. This one genuinely took me about like 5 minutes, it was not that long to do this one. And using the movie Sonic edit that I had already done as a little bit of a template, this one didn't take that long to do in Photoshop either. Shadow render actually matched up surprisingly well with the Shadow that was already in the car, so there wasn't that much editing I had to do to hide him. And I could just edit the text that was already there for movie Shadow and just throw the render in where Sonic was, so it really didn't take me that long and wasn't that hard. And here's the finished image for Shadow too. Honestly, I am incredibly proud of both of these. I really like how they turned out. And so with the character select screenshots finally being done, it's time to move on to them actually in-game being played. Now, when looking at some promo screenshots, I didn't actually have any screenshots of me in-game because when I was playing the game, I was enjoying it. I didn't even have the idea for this video at that time. So looking at some promotional images of the characters being played in-game, I saw this picture of Sonic looking back, and I thought, that looks pretty cool. I think movie Sonic could do that. Now, there really wasn't that many promo images of Shadow that I could find out there, so it kind of just narrowed down to this image because I liked the stance he was in. I thought the stance was cool, and movie Shadow could hit that and it would look good. So to start off, we're going to do movie Sonic like we always do first, of course. Come on. Adding the image in as a background once again, just as a little bit of a reference, actually really helps when it comes to doing these sort of things. When it comes to renders, I tend to just put them on another monitor or another screen since it's pretty easy to look at them and copy it for me, but when it comes to actually adding them into these screenshots, I find it really useful to throw the image in the actual Blender file. And again, I love doing these renders of them in the cars because it means I don't have to pose their legs or any of their bottom halves, and it makes the job much easier for me. And now with the render done, it's time to throw it into Photoshop and actually add Sonic into the car. There was some Sonic remnants that I had to edit out, and it was mainly just like a quill popping out behind movie Sonic's quill, which isn't really that big of a deal to edit. It was also actually trying to mix Sonic into the scene and not making it look like he's clearly just a Blender PNG that's been thrown onto a Photoshop file. But I feel like this is something movie Sonic would do. He's cocky, we like to see this. He'd be doing a cool point back and a nice little smirk at you. And here is the finished image. Compared to the actual picture, I'm pretty happy with this one too. And now that movie Sonic's been done, it's time to move on to movie Shadow, of course, with this screenshot right here. And now let me tell you, this pose was actually surprisingly much harder for me to hit in Blender. I don't know why. I thought this one was going to be really easy to put Shadow in, but there were a lot of times where I removed the background image, looked at it and thought, this does not look natural. What's he doing? The more I added to it and the more I messed with it, the more it started to look like it was going right. But there was actually one little factor of this image I forgot to check that kind of helped to my advantage with this one. And what is that advantage? The image is really small. It's really low quality and I don't know why. So adding Shadow in there wasn't really that big of an issue, and it kind of gives off the leaked insider image vibes because of how low quality it is. There are a couple remnants of Shadow that I had to remove to add movie Shadow in there. Of course, expected. I've dealt with all of this by now. Old news, boring. And once it was done, here's the final image. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't actually that size. Scale it up a little bit. There you go. That's the size. And so with there now being screenshots of them actually on the select menu, of there being them in the game, it's finally time to tackle the final boss. Now, the idea that I had for this one was actually referencing a scene from Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Most of you remember it, it's the Tokyo chase where Sonic is holding onto Shadow's Dark Rider as he's racing through Tokyo. Even though the Dark Rider hasn't been featured in any of these images I've made, I still want to include it because I think that'd be cool. So the entire plan here was to have Shadow angrily looking back at Sonic as Sonic's holding onto the Dark Rider, fearing for his life because he doesn't know what's going on. Now, this was a little bit hard merging the Blender files into both since I'm not the best at Blender. I've not been doing this for too long. Now, this was different from all the other times because I actually got to give these guys emotion. I was so used to editing them without any emotions for the screenshots of them in-game that actually having them have emotions was weird to me. Shadow's got to look angry at Sonic, and Sonic has to look worried at Shadow because he's scared he's going to fall off in this space land that they're in. And so once the render was finished, it was time to actually add them into the key art. The space I was going for is this spot right here near Miku. It's a big open area and I feel like it's in the air. It's perfect for Shadow to be driving through and Sonic looking scared on the back. Now I also wanted to match them into the little background as well. I wanted them to be purple, looking starry, looking all reflective. I went all in on this one, okay? It took me like half an hour to throw this all together with little reflections, little lights, little lens flares, little literally everything. But again, like pretty much everything else I had already done in this, once it was finished, I was really happy with the result. And here it is, the final finished thing right there. The DLC key art with Movie Sonic and Movie Shadow both there together. And now the journey I've set out on is finally finished. Technically, kind of, maybe, with these screenshots, Movie Sonic and Movie Shadow are now a part of Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. This was a really different project. I haven't done anything like this before. I've done a couple Blender shorts, but that really seems to be about it. I've never made a full video dedicated to this stuff. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. If there's any more games you want me to throw Movie Sonic and Movie Shadow into, comment them down below. Maybe we'll make this a tradition until they actually do appear in another Sonic the Hedgehog game some point in the future. But thank you to Skew3D and BTB Anim for this gorgeous Movie Shadow rig. Thank you to BTB Anim and Holopaxume for the beautiful Movie Sonic rig. No, they didn't give them to me for free. I just wanted to thank them because these are so well made. And thank you for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Subscribers on the #1 Sonic movie, adding them into CrossWorlds guy there is. Proven fact, by the way, that is a proven one, and I will see you in a bit. Goodbye!